we're going to start at the litigation side. And so I think Americans have been pushed into a way of thinking that says, I've been injured, or if I'm ever injured by the police, I will sue, I will get a bunch of money, and that will create change. And what we've seen in Chicago, Chicago paid out $300 million in civil suits last year related to policing, $100 million or so far this year, is that even when the rarity is that they get a big case and you get a big settlement and it makes it all the way through, or you get a big judgment, it so rarely results in meaningful systemic change to how the department operates. In Chicago, like I said, $300 million last year, no calls for any reform related to policing, just more cops. How do you reconcile the fact that we have these huge payouts and we have all the stuff that makes the news, yet little change actually occurs?
So I think there's a couple of things going on with the description that you've given. First, as far as the desire to sue goes, I would say that, of course, every person who brings a lawsuit has their own interests and motivations, but I think often what people want is some sort of change. The goal is not to get rich quick. It may be to get compensation, but time and time again, when you speak to people who are thinking about bringing a lawsuit, what they really want is to have the officer fired or to have some sort of change to prevent something from happening like it happened to them again. And one real tragedy of our current system is that filing a lawsuit is really one of the only ways, and often the only way, for a person to bring their mistreatment or wrongdoing to public attention to try to get some sort of change as a result, some sort of redress. So part of the reason people are going to lawsuits is because there's not other alternatives that are readily available to them. And then the cases themselves, as you said, they can result in millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars if you're talking about the Chicago Police Department. And it doesn't seem like there's any change that happens. So why is that? So a couple of reasons that lawsuits, I don't think, have the impact that they should, or that they could, or that they're expected to. One is that individual officers rarely have any skin in the game at all. They may not know the first thing about the lawsuit brought against them. And except in really extraordinary cases, they pay nothing out of their pockets to resolve these cases. The police department also doesn't have much skin in the game. In Chicago, money to satisfy settlements and judgments does come from the Chicago Police Department's budget. But when they exceed that litigation budget, which they do every year, they can just go back to Chicago City Council and get more money. And what I've come to understand is that when the Chicago Police Department comes back for more money to fund their litigation, that money is pulled from the crevices of the city budget, away from the least politically powerful people in the city. So I spoke to a person who used to represent the city in these civil rights cases, and he said when lawsuits went up, lead paint testing went down. And that was the kind of trade that's being made. A third reason is that these suits, as much as they make headlines for how much money we're talking about being spent every year, they're really just a drop in the bucket of the city of Chicago's budget. If you compare lawsuit payouts in any city to the cost of the police department in that city, the amount paid in lawsuits against those officers is going to be a drop in the bucket as compared to the police department's budget itself. So those are all reasons that lawsuits don't tend to have the impact that you think that they would. But I will say there are examples and cases where advocates creatively have used litigation to reveal information that didn't previously exist, to focus attention on problems that has escaped attention in the past. There have been officers fired or disciplined as a result. And so it does happen. It does happen, but it requires a lot of creative advocacy, and it's not the kind of direct relationship you would expect with a lawsuit payout necessarily inspiring a city to figure out how to prevent that thing from happening in the future.